Okay, in the first part of homework 8, we were talking about slope of lines and graphing lines. Now we're going to have a curve, okay? So on a curve, if you take 2 points and you find the slope of what's called the secant line, we're still going to think slope, but we just call it an average rate of change because lines have slopes, okay? And we're now doing curves. So again, it's still going to be y2 minus y1, and then in this case, because f of x of 2 is the same thing as a y of 2. F of x of 1 is the same thing as your y1. And these little subscripts are just your first point and your second point. So on this particular problem right here, it says determine the average rate of change. And what we're going to do is we're going to find this secant line from this point to this point, which is right over here. So we have like this visible line, looks like this. We're going to be finding the slope of that. But we're going to call it average rate of change. Again, connect the first ones, connect the second ones. We'll circle that one because I'm going to start with that. 2 minus 0 equals 0 minus its partner of a negative 1.5. Now again, this is the only time that I will change my signs because it becomes a positive. A double negative becomes a positive. So on the top, we're going to have 2. On the bottom, we're going to have 1.5. Now, this is a bad way of writing this, okay? You don't want a decimal inside of a fraction. So you're just going to change it. I don't care if you use your fraction key. I don't care if you just do division. It's faster for me to just say 2 divided by 1.5. And then I'm going to hit my math button, change it to a fraction. Or you can use your fraction key. I don't care. So it becomes 4/3. So that is your average rate of change. Okay. Right here, we don't have an x, I mean a y. We have an x, but we don't have a y. Well, remember, we're just talking about points. So when you're trying to find, this is a point, zero some number, we got to find out what that number is. Well, if we look over here, here's 0. We go up to our graph, it is at 2. So this is the point 0, 2. Now, that's happened to be there, but if it wasn't, you just do that point, just like this one here. This is 2.5. Where's that graph on the y-axis? Well, it's up to a positive 1. Now they just happen to label it for you. We went over 2.5, up 1. So again, we're going to try to find the slope of this secant line. Okay, so just like, again, we're going to call it average rate of change, but we're just thinking slope. Connect the first ones, connect the second ones, circle that one because that's where we're going to start. 1 minus its partner of 2, and then 2.5 minus its partner of 0. You get negative 1 over 2.5. Again, bad way of writing decimal inside a fraction. Now again, you don't have to use your calculator, it's just easier. I just know, like, and I could have done it over here. Whatever I do the bottom number, I do the top. If I didn't have my calculator, I would just move this one place. If I move that decimal one place, I'd move that one, and I'd have negative 10 over 25. And then 5 goes into both of them. 5 goes into 10 2 times, 5 goes into 25 5 times. But you don't have to know that. Again, what I did was move this decimal. If I move that one, I move this one. But your calculator will do this work for you. Negative 1 divided by 2.5, math, fraction, and it gives you negative 2/5. Now again, you can use your fraction key if you need to. I'm just not fast with mine, so I don't like, oops, I didn't mean to do that. See, and I messed up. Let's try negative 1 on the top, 2.5 on the bottom, and say it. Now I'm still going to have to change that to a fraction apparently because it doesn't like the decimal anyway, so you're going to have to hit math, fraction, and you get -2/5. So, okay, now this one right here, you'll see these and you'll see these. Okay. Average rate of change for this function from x equals 2 to x equals 4. Well, in order to find the average rate of change, which we're thinking slope, you need 2 points. Well, if I told you x is equal to 2 in this function, what would you do with it? You'd take out the x and you'd put 2. So we're going to find f of 2. So wherever we see an x, we're going to put in 2. So we're going to say 2 times 2 squared plus 3 times 2 minus 4. And then you just let your calculator do the work, okay? When you do this, you should end up with 10. And again, you could use your store button, which, whoops, this should be 2. Sorry. Wherever you see an x, you're putting in 2. Good thing I caught that. I don't have y'all sitting here to tell me that. And you get 10. See, I'm better doing it in my head than I am on a calculator. So this is the point to 10. Sometimes. I only use the calculator if it makes my life easier. So now we're going to find when x is 4. Remember, these are your x values, just a reminder from an earlier section. So wherever I see an x, I'm going to put in a 4. So it's 2 times 4 squared plus 3 times 4 minus 4. And I believe you end up with 40. I'm just going to change these 2's to a 4 instead of typing it all over. And you get 40. Okay. So you now have your next point of 440. Now you have 2 points. To find the average rate of change, it's the difference in your y's over the difference in your x's. The reason I have you do this, connect the first ones, connect the second ones, is and circle that one. That one tells you to start there. That way your y's are on top. So it's 40 minus 10, 4 minus 2 on the bottom. So we get 30 on the top, we get 2 on the bottom, so we have 15 is the average rate of change. Okay, Hong is cooking a roast. The table below gives a temperature RT of the roast in degrees Celsius. So this is degrees Celsius. At a few times T in minutes after he removed it from the oven. Find the average rate of change from 30 minutes to 50 minutes. So we're talking from here to here. Those are 2 points. If I put them side by side, okay, we have our 2 points. It's the same thing we've done throughout this whole section. Connect the first ones, connect the second ones. Well, we're going to call it average rate of change. I'm not writing all those words out. It takes too long. So we're going to say 51.3 minus 109.3, and then 50 minus 30. On the top, we'll end up with a negative 58. And on the bottom, we have 20, I believe. I'm just double checking. Excuse me. Yeah. Okay, but we're talking about the temperature. When we do this, this doesn't make sense when you're talking about real life stuff, Celsius, temperature versus minutes. So this is your